What's up guys, Black Scout Survival, and today this video we're going to be talking about gray man in a without rule of law situation or SHTF situation. And basically we've done a gray man video before, and we basically went over the foundations of it, as far as appearance and movement and stuff like that, and physical characteristics. But we want to kind of go in depth because I feel like, a gray man in a regular world situation is going to be much different than a gray man in a, civil unrest or disaster type scenario. And I think a lot of people get a misconception on, relating, in a regular real world situation versus a disaster real world situation. So, but before that, I get a lot of emails, comments, and stuff like that. People asking me about certain, clothes or gear, whatever. And this shirt I have on is a triple alt design tradecraft shirt. And if you don't know what tradecraft mean, basically tradecraft is the skill sets of spies or operatives and stuff like that. But this shirt's an awesome shirt. It's a gray man shirt. It has a sleek design. Very basic design. Has some hidden pockets. It took me forever to find the hidden pockets. That you don't get a diagram or whatever, but so you can hide some E&E tools and stuff like that on the shirt, and I'll put a link in the box below. But let's talk about gray man. Basically a gray man, if you hadn't watched my old video, I'll put a link up here, but basically it's blending in and not causing a memory in someone else or stimulus in someone else's mind, moving through an area totally unknown. So that's pretty much the basics of it. But in a stuff hits the fan scenario or without rule of law, things are going to be a little different. And why are we even talking about this? Well, when you look at a situation like a real civil unrest situation, whereas in the US, it's kind of sporadic. We don't have a lot of them, but they do happen. And people's safety, health is in jeopardy when these things go on. Things like riots, Katrina, just to name a few. But if you live outside the US, these things happen a lot more frequently. And you may ask why. Well, one, the US has really tight grips on their public, because if you've seen riots in other places, it can get out of hand very quickly, and the US realizes that and have trained their local law enforcement, National Guard, stuff like that, to take action against things like that, to prevent mass chaos. Because the longer you let a riot or something like that go on, the more criminal opportunists and people gang together and things get worse. So they have non-lethal weapon tactics and teams like that to kind of intervene on that type of situations here in the US. Now outside the US, you may see days or weeks that things go on the news, and you're more likely to face a situation like that, and angry mobs and stuff you really want to get away from and don't want to be around them. But let's say you have to move through them. That's where this gray man is going to be key. But basically the idea behind it is why would you need to be gray man in a situation like that? Well, more than likely it's because you're trying to move out of danger. So it's kind of like bug out, basically, I guess would be a good term for it. But you're having to move through a hostile area. So with that, if you didn't have to move, you would stay home or shelter in place or wherever you're at. But there's a reason why you're having to move, probably because the area is real bad. So one, in my urban navigation video, I talked about, being familiar with, certain areas and districts, and realize that some may be a high crime area where others may be, a safer area to travel. So there's just some kind of things you're going to need to take into consideration prior to making a movement. And this should be stuff that you should already familiarize yourself with and know this ahead of time. Don't wait till the last minute and there's no Wi-Fi for your iPad so you can, plan a route out, have maps and stuff like that of your area. And also of your, your state maps and out the surrounding states. That's, frame out your state. So let's say we have to move through an area. Well, ideally, in a civil unrest scenario or without rule of law, you really don't want to get with people or mobs of people. You really want to stay away from that. So that's where binoculars and stuff like that is going to come into play. But you don't want to just be out there in the streets popping up binoculars, because that's going to cause curiosity. What are you doing? And we'll touch on that in a second. But basically, you want to do some reconnaissance on your area before you move through, and see what the people are doing there. You don't want to be going to through an area where everybody's a certain way and you go in there totally different. And in without rule of law situation, walking nonchalantly like you would in a regular day civilization probably isn't going to work. They're going to be, focusing on why is this person just trying to, sneak by, especially if they're like looting and stuff like that. If you have a family, obviously you want to take that into a deeper consideration for their safety. But think about it like this: at some points, gray man may have to go out the window. And let me kind of like break down an analogy for you. Let's say you are, on a patrol. You're in the military. You're on patrol in a foreign country, and you get contact. You may have been stealthy and practicing concealment and all that kind of stuff. But once you get engaged, everything goes out the window. So in that type of situation, in a without rule of law situation, civil unrest, the gray man may have to go out the window, and you may have to react to defend yourself or move away. And the best thing to do is, like I said, eliminate the human contact factor. Stay away from people. Distance and concealment is going to be your friend in a without rule of law situation. You don't want to be around people. It's kind of like in the medieval ages. They said, how did they meet a stranger? Well, they killed them and took their stuff. So back when people say get medieval, it's like one of those things where they didn't have laws. So without rule of law, just things went out the window and people go to that primal state. So you really have to be careful of that. Like I said, in the U.S., usually they try to contain things, but when you look at Katrina, that lasted a long time, and you really need to have a plan set in place prior to. But just moving through the area and don't cause curiosity. If you're doing curious things, you're carrying a backpack, or you're carrying a bunch of supplies strapped to the top of your vehicle, it's going to cause curiosity. They're going to think you have something. So that's another time that caches are going to come into play. You may have to cache equipment. You may have to have pre-planned caches to move through an area. That's where these things are going to come into play. Because carrying a backpack, no matter if it's a gray man backpack, a North Face, or whatever, and it's not tactical, it doesn't matter. You have a backpack on. You probably have something in there that you want to keep. And these other people, they're going to need those things. So if they think they need those things, or they need those things, they're going to come and try to take them from you. And like I said, distance and concealment is your friend. Avoid the human contact if you can. And you want to move from highly populated areas. You don't want to go into those unless you absolutely have to. So, we were talking about, U.S. versus a foreign country. Now, if you're in a foreign country and you're, a U.S. citizen, or you're another citizen from another country going into a foreign country, that you're foreign to, a lot of things are going to be different within your own mannerisms, probably your style of dress. Even though you may try to imitate or mimic it, you're going to have some kind of differences. And people, locals, will pick up on that. Just like how, in your area, when you see somebody from out of town, you can hear the way they talk, their dialect, their accent, their style of dress, their mannerisms, their etiquette is going to be different. So those are some key factors that you're going to need to realize and study prior to going into an area. You may want to mimic that way of dress or style and mannerisms. Some things in some countries is okay, whereas in foreign countries or other countries, they may be an insult. Like in a lot of Middle Eastern countries, showing the bottom of your foot is an insult. So when you sit down and prop your leg up, like men most of the time do, you're maybe insulting someone. So those are some things that you need to know beforehand before going into those areas. when I was overseas, I went to some different, a lot of different areas, and even though, the other places were Caucasian, even English speaking in some places, they could still pick up that I wasn't from that area, even if they didn't hear me talk. I have a bad Southern accent, but still they didn't have to hear me talk, and they knew that I wasn't from that area. So those are some other things, but basically, let's kind of, talk about go back and talk about in a SHTF or WROL situation, you want to avoid human contact if all possible. You want, distance and concealment as your friend. You're going to need to move quickly. Don't carry a lot of equipment, and don't dress in fatigues or anything like that. Dress in normal attire, and don't act curious, and don't act too nonchalant like you're trying to be sneaky, trying to get out of the area without conflict. So hopefully this helps you set up your plan for a situation like that. Maps and all that kind of stuff. Go ahead and study them. Go ahead and have plans. Planning is crucial to any operation. You need to treat this like an operation, just like a platoon would, or squad would prior to going into an area. You want to have a plan of action, and you want to have contingency plans. If one area may have a blockade or a mob may be there, you may have to have another route planned. So think about these things. Hopefully it helps you develop your plan. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the box below. And we'll continue. I get a lot of emails about the gray man, urban survival type stuff, and we will continue doing that. So plan on seeing more. And we got a lot of good stuff coming up. So please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Please like our Facebook page. We got Instagram. And thanks for watching.